All right, let's just jump right in. Welcome to the day's explainer, where we are unpacking one of the most fascinating and honestly totally baffling mysteries of the natural world. We're looking at a creature that absolutely dominates the ocean. I mean, we're talking about an apex predator powerful enough to flip great white sharks and take down colossal blue whales. But as we're going to see, there is a profound paradox right at the heart of their existence. It's this wild story of unmatched physical power combined with an almost unbelievable level of restraint. For centuries, humanity's perception of the killer whale, or orca, has been rooted in just sheer terror. Just listen to how the ancient Roman author Pliny the Elder described them way back in the day. He called them an enormous mass of flesh armed with savage teeth. Yikes, right? Even the name killer whale actually comes from a centuries-old mistranslation by Spanish whalers. They originally called them whale killers after watching them hunt massive baleen whales, and it just kind of got flipped around. But as we dig into the actual data today, you'll see how this ancient, terrifying perception contrasts wildly with reality. Get ready for this, because here is probably the most baffling statistic you'll hear today. 0. Throughout all of recorded marine history, the number of wild human fatalities caused by orcas is exactly 0. Think about that for a second. If you dive into the ocean and come face to face with an orca, you are confronting a hyper-carnivore. You've got no armor, no venom, and let's face it, compared to them, you are a terrible swimmer. By all logic of the wild, you are the easiest possible snack. So the crucial question here is, why? Why does a hunting machine capable of obliterating us actively cross humanity off its menu? That right there is the central paradox we're decoding in this explainer. And to understand this sort of unwritten oceanic peace treaty, we first really need to grasp just how incredibly capable these animals actually are. Okay, let's move into Section 1, the arsenal built for absolute supremacy. To really get this peace treaty, we have to look at their sheer biological power. Taxonomically, the orca is the largest member of the oceanic dolphin family. A mature male can weigh up to 10 metric tons. Just to picture that, it's roughly the size of a mid-sized bus. And they can swim at speeds up to 56 kilometers per hour. Their bite? It features these 10-centimeter interlocking teeth that can easily crush the densest bones. And get this, to maintain their internal body temperature, a mature orca has to consume a staggering 135 kilograms, that's 300 pounds, of meat every single day. Oh, and that iconic black and white coloration isn't just for show either. It's a super sophisticated optical camouflage called countershading, which makes them virtually invisible from above or below. Okay, this is wild. For years, marine biologists were finding intact great white shark carcasses washed ashore, but they were missing their livers. The culprits? Orcas. They literally figured out a hack in the shark's biology. They ram the shark at high speed, flip it upside down to induce a paralyzing state called tonic immobility, and then they just extract its calorie-dense liver. It is so effective that massive great whites will completely abandon their territories for months the second they hear orcas approaching. But their true power doesn't just come from size. It lies in their tactical intelligence. They coordinate like a highly trained special forces team to suffocate adult blue whales. Down in Antarctica, they swim in perfect calculated synchronization to create waves that literally wash seals right off the ice floes. In Argentina, they use the surf to intentionally beach themselves just to snatch sea lions right off the sand. They've even learned to eavesdrop on the acoustic signatures of hydraulic winches on commercial fishing vessels so they can steal fish from long lines. And here's the kicker. None of this is hardwired DNA. It is meticulously taught by mothers to their calves. Which brings us nicely to Section 2, inside the orca mind, biological computing and distinct cultures. The secret to all this intelligence lies in their biological computing power, specifically spindle neurons. Their brain is 4 times larger than a human brain, and MRI scans show these incredibly complex folds responsible for emotional processing. Spindle neurons basically act as high-speed information highways in the brain. In humans, they're what give us empathy, intuition, and the ability to feel complex grief. So the fact that orcas possess these same cells is profound evidence of a deeply complex inner life. They even pass the mere self-recognition test. Plus, they have specific acoustic names, unique to their own family lineage, that they broadcast across the ocean. How cool is that? Now, this neurological evolution forms the foundation of true literal culture. For example, in the Pacific Northwest, you have resident orcas that eat only salmon and transient orcas that strictly hunt marine mammals. Now, despite sharing the exact same waters, they don't interact, they don't interbreed, and their acoustic dialects are completely incomprehensible to one another. It's like they speak totally different languages. This dietary and linguistic knowledge isn't genetic, it's passed down from generation to generation. That is the very definition of culture. So, how exactly is this knowledge preserved over time? Let's check out Section 3, A Matriarchal Society, the Power of the Grandmother. It all comes down to what scientists call the grandmother hypothesis. In the entire natural world, only a tiny handful of species, like humans and orcas, actually go through menopause. Think about it. Evolutionarily, an organism that can't reproduce should theoretically be phased out. Yet female orcas stop reproducing around age 40 and then go on to live for another 30 to 40 years as the leaders of their pod. Take the legendary matriarch Granny, or J2, who lived to be nearly 80 years old. By ceasing reproduction, they stop competing with their own offspring for food. Instead, they become these living, swimming databanks, using decades of memory to pinpoint safe harbors and food sources, which drastically increases the pod survival rates during harsh years. This incredibly deep family structure forges intense emotional bonds. Take the earth-shattering event from 2018, when a mother orca named Tahlequah gave birth, but tragically, her calf died after just 30 minutes. She refused to let her baby sink. For 17 straight days and nights, covering a 1,000-mile journey, she carried that 400-pound body on her forehead. And when she grew exhausted, other members of the pod actually took turns supporting the calf for her. Neurobiologists cite this as undeniable, heartbreaking evidence of profound psychological grief. It proves that they love their families no less than we do. Which brings us right back to our main mystery in Section 4, the human exception, solving the zero fatality paradox. You know, a lot of people think sharks bite surfers because the human silhouette looks like a seal from below. But unlike sharks who rely on murky vision, orcas use echolocation, biological sonar. These acoustic waves literally, physically, see right through our skin. The sonar bounces back and returns highly specific data to them. It says we have fragile bones, weird two-chambered lungs, and extremely thin fat. So that data point goes straight to the orca's brain. This creature lacks the required biological blubber. It is definitely not a seal. But what happens if that sonar actually gets jammed? Well, in 1972, off the coast of California, crashing waves and air bubbles temporarily blinded a hunting orca's sonar. Relying purely on vision, its predatory instinct triggered and it bit a surfer's leg. But here is the absolutely spectacular display of restraint. The very second its teeth registered alien human bone structure, the orca actively aborted the attack and just swam away. Even when running purely on a split-second instinct, their nervous system is lucid enough to realize the error and just let go. Okay, but I know what you might be thinking. What about all the recent news? Since 2020, around the Iberian Peninsula, there have been over 673 documented incidents of orcas ramming sailboats and snapping off rudders. The media was all over this, calling it nature's revenge. But scientists point out one absolutely crucial detail. When those boats sink and humans fall into the water, the orcas just swim away. 0 humans harmed. It turns out this group consists of about 15 juveniles. It's effectively a cultural fad. Like teenagers obsessing over a social media trend, ramming rudders creates these fascinating water vortices for them to play in. It is collective recreation, and even while doing it, they still strictly adhere to the golden rule. Do not harm humans. Tragically, there is one major exception to this rule. Section 5, the tragedy of captivity, breaking the Oceanic Peace Treaty. See, when humans thrust a highly emotional, brilliant creature, one that is used to swimming hundreds of miles a day, into a tiny concrete tank, it triggers a malignant psychological disorder known as zoochosis. In a tank, their echolocation clicks continuously slam against smooth concrete walls and bounce back, highly amplified. Scientists literally describe the experience as being akin to being locked in a tiny closet, forced to listen to your own screams echoing endlessly, day and night. And the psychological torture just compounds from there. Marine parks routinely throw random orcas from completely different oceans, who, remember, don't speak the same dialect, into the exact same cramped enclosure. It basically becomes a bloody gladiator arena. Driven to absolute extreme frustration, they gnaw on the steel gates, wearing their teeth down to the pulp, which leads to agonizing drilling procedures done without any anesthesia. And sadly, 100% of mature captive males suffer from dorsal fin collapse, simply because, lacking bone structure, the fin just succumbs to gravity as they float listlessly at the shallow surface of the water. When a highly advanced intellect is pushed way past its breaking point,
tragedy strikes. Take the heartbreaking story of Tilikum, a colossal male kidnapped from the wild in Iceland at just 2 years old. He was housed with aggressive females and locked in a pitch-black metal module for 14 hours a day just to prevent fighting. His mind fractured. Over 34 years, he was involved in the deaths of 3 people, including trainer Don Branshaw in 2010. These weren't predatory wild instincts or hunting mistakes. This was the desperate, uncontrollable wrath of a mind subjected to systemic, prolonged trauma. It's a really dark mirror reflecting what happens when we strip them of their freedom. Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, the real ocean threat, betraying our relatives under the waves.
Now, while the era of captive entertainment is thankfully slowly coming to an end, our modern world is currently creating a deadly environment for them right out in the wild. Deafening propellers from massive supercargo ships are causing acoustic blindness, jamming the very echolocation they need to hunt and communicate. On top of that, legacy toxins like PCBs are bioaccumulating in their blubber, causing severe immune degradation and really alarming miscarriage rates. Add to that the decimation of the Chinook salmon populations from climate change and dams, and things look grim. In stark contrast to all this destructive industry, indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest, like the Lummi tribe, have understood these creatures perfectly for millennia. They revere them as our relatives under the waves, reflecting a profound, beautiful respect for a pure culture. And that leaves us with our final, ultimate biological paradox. The greatest mystery isn't just why killer whales refrain from eating humans. The real question we have to ask ourselves is, how does an apex predator possess the intuitive wisdom to restrain its absolute power and honor a steadfast peace treaty with us, all while humanity actively poisons our shared oceanic home? It's a profound lesson in restraint and harmony that I think we could all stand to learn from. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I really hope it changes how you look at the ocean forever. See you next time.